Welcome to Planet Pluto Pseudo.
Getting on the mothership. Okay, we live. I don't know what happened. I think I hit the wrong button. I don't know what happened. But guess what? We are back on planet Earth. We just came all the way back down. We're shooting back up to planet Pseudo. Y'all know who it is. It's me, your homegirl, Ladosha Wright, a.k.a. Key Lolo. And then right over there, we have my one and only, my PNC, the unapologetically brilliant Cheryl Morrow, the hair oracle. And I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all know I'm a hairstylist. I'm way better. Y'all here, we love y'all, man. Y'all love us like that. Because you know I'm a better hairstylist than I am a techie person. But that's okay. We made it through. But before we went live, I was asking, the hair oracle, how you doing? And she said she just can't get over this Crown Act situation. So, Cheryl, tell us again, what is it about the Crown Act that got you go? Now, these folks don't know what they're doing. What's happening with the Crown Act?
Well, there's a 17-year-old having issues, and he's a smart boy. His hair is gorgeous, and the school is a private school. And
he's in a private school.
They are not letting go of their policy, and he is suspended, and he cannot participate in any activities. And his hair is out of his face; it's above his shoulders and it's above his ears. And his grades have suffered, and his attitude has suffered. But then there's another one on, I think, Roland Martin, where this really high ranked doctor in a very important hospital, I think in Virginia, just looks at a beautiful dark-skinned girl and called her a freak of nature. And the commentary and all of what we are talking about, it's just very old language and very just black power racist kind of. And it's just not moving us forward. It's not talking about the real issue. It's just frustrating because we just have the same talk. And it's just really.
I think one of the issues, and you guys can let me know.
And I think that is that expert thing. I think you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Mute.
Hello, how's that?
Yeah, she is definitely not a techie.
You can't hear me because I can hear you loud and clear.
What did you do with your sound?
You can't hear me. I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Hello?
Hello? That's it?
I think it was on my end. No, I think you're muting me.
Okay, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, we got it.
I think he muted me. You did something to my mic over here.
Are you muted now?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, we good. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm thinking what it is. I think what the problem is that journalism, and you guys just let me know, Luana. You guys let me know. I see you, Sophia. Let me know. I think journalism has gotten really lazy, and they just like to go with the trend, because now this is why we're here on these podcasts, because the news, I mean, I hate to, but number 45, the whole fake news thing, I think that people, they're so used to the news just being so, so cheeky, so cut, what they call that, cookie cutter. And so that's the hot topic, Cheryl. So they have to be on the post of the topic that they create. They don't want to hit it from another angle because they are afraid that no one will watch it. And so I think that's what we're dealing with, because the way that we talk about hair over here on Planet Pluto Pseudo and on the dumbest shit that people say about black hair, a lot of people, even the title, like, well, that's so offensive. Well, black people be saying some dumb shit. I mean, and other people do too, and we have to call it, what it is. But, people kind of, they like that cheeky stuff. So I think that's what you're dealing with when it comes to the media.
Right.
Journalism is not what it used to be. I mean, no offense, journalists. And I think some journalists, I mean, Roland Martin, he did create his own platform. Unfortunately, he's still going about it the same way that CNN did it. He just put a black twist on it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think they know that there is any expertise. I don't think that they even really realize that there could be some additional information and another perspective to look at it, and that the cosmetology field just doesn't offer anything. They have no clue. They think that it is a collegiate issue. They think it's a professor issue. They think that the professor in that world, in the media world, in the black power political world, is going to help them solve this issue because it happens sociopolitically. But the writings of these laws and the writing and the intelligence needed to be communicated to politicians and communicated to media is in the beauty world. It's not in the collegiate world. And I know.
I think I don't know, sure, because I don't know if a lot of cosmetologists, and I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to say our industry is dumb,
Right.
but I think that if you was to interview the average cosmetologist, they would take on popular opinion that the Crown Act is really helping people be able to, wear their hair. They're going to buy the hair discrimination script. And because I hear it in the hair, I hear it from other hairstylists. As a matter of fact, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a cosmetologist who would say, you know what, I'm not for the Crown Act, or I challenge the Crown Act, or I have some issues with bits and portions of it. If you are a licensed professional and you are watching the live right now, or if you are watching it post the live, then go. I was trying to get it out, but I can always count on the YouTube. The YouTube is some gangsters up in here. But if you are a licensed professional or a hair care expert, like a natural hairstylist, and you have some issues with the Crown Act, can you drop what your issues are? Let's take a poll to see. So Sophia the First, this is what she had to say. I love this right here. I got to post this one right quick. I got to. The Crown Act is a band-aid for a heart attack. So there you have it. Sophia, you are a cosmetologist, right? And so there you have it. I know I was the first one. Now, and here in Ohio, I think, we have to go, as a professional, we have to go along with the trend because that is where the consumer is. So here in Ohio, I spoke out for the Crown Act so that you and I, could have a voice for the Afro Hair Summit. So I had to get on there and talk about it because that is where the people are. So everybody's listening to the Crown Act, and everybody is really under the guise that there is a such thing as hair discrimination. They don't understand, you can't really discriminate against the hairstyle. But people can't really grasp that because you have entities who are telling people literally how they can and cannot wear their hair. So that's going to be a challenge.
Well, here's the thing, and I get it, but what I would like to press is that while everyone could be into the populace consensus, that doesn't mean that we don't look for experts. And I know that, and see, here's the danger. They think because it's just black hair, they think it's just culture. They don't think it's science.
Mm,
They don't think it's anything in high level thought. So let's just take um, astro science.
okay.
A When somebody says I'm a astroscientist, right?
Right.
Astrophysicist, they know that there is some levels to it. It's your bachelor's, then it's your master's,
Right.
PhD. See, when
Right.
you get to beauty and you get to black people's hair and you get to black people's likeness and image and self worth and all of those things, and you get to just fashioning hair, it is just the physical hand techniques to just style it. They don't think it's chemistry. They don't think it's anything that there's little levels to it. And then they don't understand that we also just don't do the hair part, that we also are there for the psychological health and the mental health and well-being of the client as well. And so we are also involved with trends and data and research and development. But then none of that is taken into consideration because maybe they don't put it quite like I put it.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah,
But
it's a
none,
hard topic for a cosmetologist to get in front of the media and be that outlier. And so I see you, Sophia. So she's saying, hey, I'm a chemist. She worked with our neighbor in Cincinnati, and their idea of black product was to make the container purple. Wow. But this is the behind the scenes part that we don't get a chance to talk about. So therein lies what she just said. And then she also said, that's right. They're low level and very basic science for low level people that do not believe in science. You do have a lot of people, particularly, your natural hair people that just really don't like that part. And then you have some cosmetologists, I've been guilty myself, I will admit it, that science, was somewhat, it wasn't as, it wasn't cool. It wasn't really, sexy, like, hair color. So I think, that is what we have. But tonight's topic, this is the perfect topic for what you're talking about. Are these pseudo people who are out here and they're putting out, so much misinformation, number one. Number two, the information that's so incorrect, it has really seeped into the cosmetology industry, and it has really flipped us on our head. And like I said, that's why I'm going to the Afro Hair Summit. By the way, guys, we still have tickets available, so that we can unlearn some of this stupid stuff. So tonight, our topic is all about, what makes someone a hair expert, so that because Roland Martin and them are not aware of Ladosha, Wright, may not even be, well, they probably know about you, but I know they don't know about my black ass. But anywho, that could very well be a challenge, that they just have no idea of who we are. So let's get, and I think they probably wouldn't know who we are when you have stuff like this. So are you ready to get real to see this is what's happening in the beauty? Now, this is professional. Remember, the Planet Pluto Pseudo, this platform is pretty much geared towards your licensed professionals, your natural hairstylists, or your hair aficionados. So here we're not really putting people down, things down. We're just bringing up the topics and just trying to raise that. Well, we're not trying. We're raising that level of conversation, like Cheryl said, not from the basic. So here are some a get real clip from a professional cutting curly textured hair. You ready to get real?
Let's get real.
All right, y'all. Let's get real. Here we go.
This, and then I start to just go with the shape and take off any little pieces I see or any sort of harshness. Try to round that. Have it all draped off. Can we see this?
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
I mean, come on now, Cheryl. That's a hair expert. You can't expect Roland Martin to call that lady up. Now, I don't know what she was doing, but she was teaching a class, and that was her skill set.
Right.
And so I think to Sophia's point, I think is that kind of, I mean, no professional.
Well, in beauty school, our highest level of connection to experts is an instructor.
Right.
And they themselves have either practiced maybe a couple of years or 10 years and they've decided to retire, or they just went into the beauty school level. But how beauticians and hairstylists, how they end up in a so-called expertise level is literally they are lifted on what we call a platform. And it is connected either to a manufacturer that puts you on this elevated platform, right?
Right.
Because they like your personal technique that you do in your own salon. So they like that. They hire you, and thus you become an expert. And I don't really think that the arts and sciences have peeled out what would be a beauty textured hair expert is. Because on the flyer is like, are you an expert because people say you are? When are you an expert? When you say you are? Are you an expert because you received training? Are you an expert? Like, what is the parameters?
Well, I think that even when you see, I did what you would ask us to do. I actually Googled hair expert and I put images to just see what is a hair expert, just aesthetically. What does this person even look like? And so here's what I saw. That's what a hair expert looks like.
You see the brand. That's the brand, Schwarzkopf, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you have it's a practice, which means that because they don't regard the scientific part and the research and development part and the history part, the culture part, the arts, and they don't see that part of the beauty field. They only see your hands, your technical ability. That is, and if you do the technical ability, regardless if you do it wrong for 20 years, the 20 years is a natural dovetail, a natural kind of roll into becoming an expert, unfortunately, because, the expert is the dermatologist. The expert could be the trichologist, but it's never the beauty. It's never
right. And so to that point, This is why we need to have the conversation over here on Planet Pluto Pseudo, because on one token, we're saying that the license means a lot, but on the other token, we're saying it doesn't. I know what we are saying is that it is time, it is overdue for cosmetology to raise and change and do something different in the area of cosmetology. The only thing I see what's happening with the book are trends. But again, Miss Sophia, she makes a very, this is pretty powerful right here. I got to show this one. Very powerful statement. An expert in Black hair needs three tenets: understanding the physiological, what is your body doing, the chemistry and techniques, products, methods, and culture, and what our hair means to us. Jesus, that could be a class. That's what the Afro Hair Summit is all about. We are pushing, and I think that might be the new push. Here in Ohio, I got a phone call yesterday, and guess what they are doing here in Ohio? So Miss Rogner is at it again. They're going to introduce another bill to do what? Lower the standards of education and barbering and cosmetology. And so these people who make our cosmetology books, they have not stepped up to the plate. The book has definitely gotten thicker, and this is an old book. They have a new one that's even thicker. I didn't bring it here because it's so much thicker, but there's not anything really new to Miss Sophia's comment, by way of those tenets that she talked about, which you and I feel definitely it would help the industry more if we would raise the level of education. But people, even in the industry, they're kind of, I don't know if we should make cosmetology and barbering and natural hairstyling. I don't know if we should raise those standards. So that's a reality, Cheryl. There, even within the industry, some people are still not quite comfortable with raising the bar, and the reason being because you also see stuff like this right here. So check this one out. Here we go. We're gonna get real again, guys. You're gonna love this one, Cheryl.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Okay, to Sophia's point. Now, we know that was not a piece of human hair. I mean, but you will have licensed professionals who will buy these gimmicky things. What do you think about that product? I mean, I'm gonna let you go first. Anybody in the chat, go ahead on.
Well, I'm not gonna see. Here's the thing. Because I deem myself as an expert, okay, I'm not gonna answer that personally. Doesn't make a difference what I think personally.
Mm-hmm.
What information I am going to give to us collectively, and what do we think collectively? Because we are stronger in numbers. And so we go to manufacturers and people who come in with things such as those types of products and new treatments or whatever the case may, whatever that craziness was. But we go with a consensus after we get through examining it as an industry. And to be frank, we don't have an organization that would represent us, so we could get some kind of lobby and get some kind of prestige. And so we don't really have that. And
So you're saying, so when you say that, you mean like if that product said approved by the professional, how the dentist will say the toothpaste is by the pediatrics or, something like, is that what you mean?
When a resident comes out of medical school and they go into a hospital or an ER, wherever they're going, one of their goals is they're a doctor in their residency. They're there to get and gain experience. They're there to get and practice and earn some money so they can pay for these very expensive boards and those expensive stamp of approval to their peers so they can get those beautiful pieces of paper to sit on their wall. Because just because you go to medical school, you want all of these accolades from people. So let's just say for cosmetologists, want them to know that they've gone through history, the chemistry and the scalp, they've gone through hair loss, they've gone through myths, and they've gone through really good practice of coil mechanics and all these other wonderful things. And they get this, they pay thousands of dollars to get those board certifications to go on their wall.
Well, let me just say this. Hold on now, Cheryl. I mean, won't people say, what is you taking away from the art? I mean, we're creative.
Well, no, that's what Dr. Morrow named his textbook, The Art and Science. We're not just artists. We're not just gifted. We're not just hand technical and technicians, very skilled technicians, and had many years of physical technical skill application. We're scholarly. We're intellectuals. There is a different level of when you are applying your intelligence and your prowess in terms of how you understand, and then you take that intelligence and you match it with other levels of the industry, such as manufacturing and science and innovation, and you're helping move the industry forward with your intellect and your scholar, not just always trying to create a new tool with your artistic endeavors. It's much more than that. I didn't read that last comment.
Yeah. Sherry Ann Smith said, I agree. We need accredited organization of professional cosmetologists. He just missed the F, but y'all know what he meant. You know what I'm saying?
No problem.
So we do need that. Sophia said, okay, but she had to tell us we better not put black on it though, Cheryl, because she says, I hate to tell you, but if you put black on any endeavor, then the standards will drop faster. The horse draws like the freak dick. Whoop, whoop! What you know about that? What you know about that freak dick? And
let me just say this. And though I understand your point, absolutely. However, the demographics of when National Geographic's called me and my dad to understand that 2050, the average, American is going to be female, she's going to be brown, and her hair is going to be curly. And I think that when you have enormous demographics, there's a lot of money to be made. So we cannot, I don't think the industry can afford for us to not call it texture, black, or Afro. They understand where it's coming from. But here's the thing. We are assuming that all people on the planet have straight hair, and actually straight hair is rare. Curly hair is the predominance of everyone's texture on the planet. And I think that the industry is going to suffer if we just keep looming in this notion that the standard of beauty has not become what we know it is to be. It is of curly textures, and it's well-rounded, and it's a melting pot of all types of textures. And most people trust that people of color and black folks know what the hell they're doing most times than not. And I think that this serves as an opportunity if we can be courageous enough to set the precedence. But I want to get our level of scholar up to where we can become experts. And just like we were talking in the dumbest shit that people say about black people's hair on Mondays, it's almost like, for instance, we talk about protein, but are we talking about biological protein? Are we taking it to how protein works in the body, but how protein works industrial, cosmetic, and food? there's so many facets when an expert talks about protein, so we can move the conversation forward. And I can really teach you to understand protein, so we can actually ask for and communicate with manufacturers and tell them, no, we don't want just big fat polymers. We don't just want this and that, and just stop pissing on our leg telling us it's raining. We want this and that and this and that, because we have people coming in and needing their hair done, blah, 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 blah. But
Right.
you get the point. We have to just be multifaceted, and we have to sound like people want to come to us and say, wow, they're really doing and moving.
But here it is. Here it is. Here we go. So that's the reality, Cheryl. When for some reason, when you envision a hairstylist, like when people talk about what we do behind the chair, when I go and I give testimony, the belief is that all we are doing is really, quote unquote, playing in hair. They don't really see the real work. Let's just take, for example, the curly perm. If you or the afro or even braids, you have this whole phenomenon that people think that this is new. But if you work behind the chair every day, you will know that nothing goes out of style in the beauty salon. And I'm sure a fashion designer would say the same thing. Well, we never stopped making kuboks, you know. We
Right.
still make butterfly collars. It's just not, quote unquote, the trend. So how, Cheryl, how can we get around that? Because that is what people think when they say no licensure. Let people be free to work. Let the education, like she said, the fear that if you raise the, what does she say? Here it is. Okay. She says now it's like they are purposefully trying to dumb down the cosmetology industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And let me give you a good example. Remember when the woman had something glued to her head?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, because I was not, and I called that particular doctor, and I told him, if he don't stay his ass off that media, you know damn well you won't have shit in your office to get that damn shit off that woman's head. But yet, the journalists focused on the dermatologist.
Yes.
Knowing damn well that girl went to a cosmetologist to get that shit off her head.
But everybody knew
But-
it wasn't glue. It was not. It wasn't the glue. It wasn't the gorilla glue that she said it was. But nobody trusts the cosmetologist, Cheryl.
But here's the thing. So if we had some kind of representation and we had some kind of what do they call it? Gates, the gardens, the guardians of the gate, or the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Call down there and you go to that local media and you say, bad story, refute the story, take that story back. Dermatology has no idea how to help that woman. So don't go down to no dermatologist. Bad story. It never happened. The dermatologist had nothing, but the dermatologist got the credit.
He did. And I did. I gave some commentary. They ate my ass up. They said, "Oh no!" I said, "Now y'all know that is not gorilla glue in her hair." We all knew that she used too much glue. And I actually asked some people, because I don't slay weaves, but I asked some guys who slay some weaves, can you guys go on there and tell it? They didn't want to do it. They were afraid. Hence, now let's move a little bit more into the topic. Again, tonight, welcome everybody into the chat. You are on Planet Pluto Pseudo, and we are talking about what makes a hair expert. How do we determine a hair expert? So you have these titles of expertise, right? So you have an actual hair expert. You have a trichologist, right? And then you have a cosmetologist. All right. So let's start off with a hair expert. So let's let our listeners see what hair experts, well, this one hair expert, what she's talking about over on TikTok. And Sophia, Sophia, I hope you are still in the chat because you might find this one very interesting. We're talking about the difference between a hair expert, a trichologist, and a cosmetologist. So let's see. Here we go. Here's our hair expert.
Things I think everybody should know before ever touching your hair with any kind of product. If your hair gets all watery and shit when you put something on your hair, it's too thick. Put something thinner on your hair. If your hair is super frizzy after you put some product on it, that means you need to put something else in it that has a little bit of coconut oil. Just a little bit. Thick substance, like a smoothie. I recommend for dandruff and psoriasis people, they wash their hair like at least try like every 3 days, every 3-4 days. One thing I had to learn as a hairstylist, nature will always take its course, whether you like it or not. Now I'm not talking shit in the pee, and I'm talking about the sky and how much it freaking likes to rain and how much it freaking likes to get humid, especially out here in New York.
The dumbest shit people say about black hair.
Now, I'm biased. I put that at the end. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. But that's a hair care expert. So what makes a person a hair? We're going to go through the titles. Right now, we're on a hair care expert, not a trichologist, not a cosmetologist. What makes someone a hair care? Because she says she's a hair care expert, and that was her advice.
Right. In one of the questions I proposed today, are you an expert because you say you are? Because in the political arenas and medical arenas and other think tanks and Brookings and all these wonderful high-end think tanks, you're an expert by your peers.
Okay.
Peer review articles, essays, theories, and in books and things of that nature. She just said she was.
Well, what? Well, hold on now. Can you be an expert if you got them skills, with your hand? Would that make you an expert if you have the skill set? Can you call yourself an expert if you have 25
you're assuming, right? You're assuming that expert means the 360-degree consummate career, and you're talking about have done many things in your career, and you are able to organize your knowledge base according to, application and writings and research, and have done many things with different branches within your industry. And I think that she's in a deficit. And let me just say this, and because what also makes an expert, followers. Those things make people assume that you are well versed in a full knowledge of what things can be. But the nature of experts are not just people who have answers. And actually, experts will tell you they don't have all the answers. What they tell you. Yeah, experts are not there to give you just answers. They're there to organize your thoughts. They're there to be able to tell you the various aspects of something. But because they organize knowledge, bodies of knowledge, they know what things that may work, do work, have not worked, and why they don't work.
Now, are you still throwing out? Because I know post the live. And I want you guys to say, be honest. Don't be afraid. This is a platform for us professionals to really just be candid and just go ahead and pour it out there. So you're saying that if I have worked 40 years behind the chair, 35 years behind the chair, and I've been coloring hair over and over and over and over and over, and I've seen all these products come and go, I cannot call myself an expert as a colorist at that point after 35, 40 years, 25 years of work. Can I be honest? We're not on trichology. We're not on cosmetics. We're just going to say expert. I can't call myself one.
You can call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But here's the thing. wants that particular 40-year veteran, right? 40-year veteran. And I'm not saying time within and time spent, but one of the things about experience that we have to understand, when you have experience and 15 of those have been spent in doing something wrong or has not worked, you are more of an expert in those 40 years of not just what you've done right, but also what you've done wrong. And so it's not, you can call yourself that, but when that particular 40-year veteran gets in the midst of 10 to 15, 20-year veterans, then they will be able to juxtapose and find out, wow, I am expert in something that is in 1960 and 1970 and 1980, but I may not be versed in something that is recent in how things work now.
Right.
So you have to, it is not just one thing, but experts know it's not one thing.
Yeah.
It's a breadth and a more of a critical analysis of the whole gamut, right?
Right.
Because I haven't did professionally, I have not been in a salon in many years, but because I keep up with it and because I am always moving myself forward and I'm involved in other things, I make things to work. So when I converse with the hairstylist, I am not conversing with them about something 20 years ago. Conversing with them in something now and
And
tomorrow.
I think, if you, again, we're talking about licensed professionals, your natural hairstylist, your trichologist, anyone who's watching this platform, I can always just speak for myself. And I do find that working alongside other cosmetologists, once you get your niche, you're there and you're kind of stuck. And I've seen a lot of people who don't understand that it keeps changing. Like I remember, let's take, for example, with hair coloring. They used to always call it the what? Cancellation theory. And so you have these old school hairstylists that'll say, well, red cancels out green and blue cancels out orange. But the new language is that it doesn't do that.
Uh-huh.
They don't teach that anymore. And so I can always tell who's kind of stuck to your point. And it's going to be very hard, for some of those people who have that outdated, education and not seeing how it works. So to Sophia's point, in the chat, calling yourself one doesn't make you one. But Mr. Smith asked, are there any credentials that could make someone a hair expert? Like, so can they get something to add?
The Beauty Cultures League is the only one probably in the history of the vocation, and is set really in the early 20th century that has managed to get what we call accreditation. Here's the problem. It's the curriculum that's the problem.
Oh!
It's not the credential. So and so after you have many years, there are so many doctors in the National Beauty Cultures League, not to make them an example of what I'm saying, but
I got you.
Shit, the shoe fits. But the point here is that, but what are we doctors in? Are we doctors in what is been, in what is now, and what is tomorrow? What is going to happen tomorrow? Are we teaching, the present? What is the credential in? So I'd rather give you credentials in the scientific aspect and give you a 360 degree on that, and a little bit of trichology, and a little bit of dermatology, and a little bit of cosmeceuticals. And so you guys can really understand in terms of the Afro Hair Science Summit, and then be able to have a platform where because of course, We're dialoguing as professionals.
Right.
Just me. Experts don't know everything, but they know they don't, which makes them always susceptible to being in the right place at the right time, understanding data, understanding studies, understanding research, understanding media, understanding history, understanding the various components that make up an industry. That's what makes them that way. And if cosmetology had a pathway for 40-year-old veterans, 25-year veterans to be able to say, I'm ready to go away from my chair now. I'm ready to go into the other echelon of the beauty industry and textured hair, and to go do thesis and essays and teach and be in professorship. If there was a pathway, and I think that is where the expert issue comes in, because there's nowhere else for us to go to elevate.
Well, from the looks of it, I still think that a lot of cosmetologists, I could be wrong. I think they fear this higher education. I really do. If you are a licensed professional, let me know. Are you up for investing into more education? Whether you want to stay behind the chair, grow away from the chair to move to that point. But to Cheryl's point, as always, I hate to say it, but god dang nabbits, she's always damn right. You know what I'm saying? Come on now. I see you in the chat here, Savant. The oracle is always right, because here you have it. Next month, we're going to have another wonderful book, but this month, this is our last feature of highlighting styling Jim Crow, African American beauty training during segregation. And again, this is by Julia Kirk Black Welder. And so to Cheryl's point about the process of raising the bar. So now remember, there was a time when you did not have to have education. And remember, this was during what? Jim Crow. So y'all know they wasn't letting us do these books. All right. Notice I said do these. Y'all know what that means? If you know what do these mean, you know what I'm saying. I'm sorry. Let me do these. Okay. So here you go. Back in the day, before all of this, here it is on page 7. Okay. Here we have it. This is what African Americans did for the beauty and barber industry. But right now, it's just the beauty industry. The rapid expansion of the beauty industry through the 1920s had led to the broad employment of untrained and uneducated workers. Once licensing of beauticians and barbers was in place, both schools and licensed practitioners sought to drive jet lag beauty operatives. I like that word. I'm still in that shit. Beauty operatives out of business, both as a means to distance themselves from the less qualified and as a means of driving up the prices. So there you have it. In the beginning, cosmetology was to do exactly what Cheryl is talking about, but that was in the 1920s. It's 2023, and Cheryl is saying it's time to do that 2.0, or I think somebody put 2050 in the house. Okay. So It's time to raise the bar. So now we got a good feel for what a hair expert is, but now it's time to move over to trichology. Now, when I was a hairstylist, I can't do hair. I'm going to be honest. I am not the best hairstylist. So I took a course once I got my license through Redken and then some other companies and got a little certificate. It was a certificate in trichology, and I used that to teach people how to do it themselves because I really couldn't do hair. So it was more like a buzzword or a catchphrase to be different. All right. Now today, trichology has taken off into something that is just absolutely phenomenal. So people are still wondering, what is a trichologist? So here we go. We're going to show you guys some clips, and we're going to move over from the hair expert. And now let's get ready, guys, to go over to what is a trichologist. trichologist.
So what is trichology? So what is trichology? Well, trichology is the science of the scalp and hair loss treatment.
So trichology is the study of hair, scalp, and diseases as it relates to science. So a trichologist is a paramedical, and what we do is that we look at hair loss and also scalp conditions from a holistic approach.
Well, don't nobody know what a trichologist is, so you might as well just give me the treatment.
Okay. All right, come on, chat. I see y'all. The numbers is up. It's time for y'all to go ahead on and do a little bit of this before Cheryl gives her response. As y'all hit that like button, go ahead on and do this.
Pump me on, pump me on.
Hey, I had to let Cheryl take it. Harry Savant, you ready? She about to be like the skinny boys. She about to rip the cut. Do-do, chicka, chicka, do-do, rip the cut. She about to rip it. What is a trichologist? Now, they said hair, scalp diseases, and hair loss seems to be the theme. Now, in my mind, here I go, Hair Savant, rock with me now. Ain't that a cosmetologist? Talk to us. I'm going to mute my mic, Hair Savant. Sophia, I'm going to mute my mic. Go ahead on, show. What is a trichologist? What's the difference? And help us understand as we talk about what makes these people experts. What is a trichologist?
A trichologist is a person that doesn't do hair. It's a cosmetologist that doesn't do hair because, and it's not diseases, it's disorders. It's called conditions and disorders. It's not diseases because they can't prescribe. So they don't deal with dis-ease. Dis-ease is systemic. It means that it is also connected to an autoimmune disorder. Now, what they can do is identify it, but they cannot prescribe anything. So they look at it, they do. And the young lady, I think with the braids, said it better. They can only deal with things from a holistic perspective. Now, in Afro Cosmetology, in Afro Hair Science Summit, we deal with cosmetic trichology. Cosmetic trichology is preparing the cosmetologist to be able, and let me just say this, trichology is not an elevation for a cosmetologist. It is parallel. It is not an elevation. They're not better than you. They don't know, because at the end of the day, you can get a trichology education and not go through a certification program. All you have to do is research Google. Okay, you can get conditions and disorders in Wikipedia. You can get these things. This is common knowledge. What the elevation is in what we teach in cosmetic trichology is we understand that we need to have a skill in diagnosis. Because when I took Sister Locks, the whole Sister Locks under and with Dr. Joanne Cornwell, which is the founder of Sister Locks, we created what we call lock trichology. And I wrote that curriculum with her. And that is teaching us to identify through our nose, our eyes, and to become an attending cosmetic physician in the cosmetology world. But I did it with her loctician so they can identify the disorders and conditions that are associated with natural hair and locks. But moving right along, but trichologist is not an elevated skill set for cosmetology. Cosmetic, cosmo, the whole damn gamut. And unfortunately, because they don't teach it in beauty school and it's not a state requirement, They don't teach it to you. So therefore, they peel it apart and make it as separate. Now, trichology as a study is older than cosmetology, because trichology for Europeans, because it's not an African concept, okay, it is based in gross hygiene. And so it never integrated into the cosmetic field, because cosmetics was one thing and trichology was another, because trichology is about head lice and disease of Europeans, not of people of color. Anyway, but that is one of the reasons why it is sold as a separate elevated, but it is not separate. It's never been. And I can teach, and we teach it, because I think we're adding cosmetic trichology and hair loss in Toledo, right? You're muted.
I'm sorry, y'all. I was immersed. I'm with you. Hold on, Harrison. But I had to put that. I was like, oh my bleeding heart. So admittingly, I will say this. When I don't know if Red can still do that little course thing, but it literally was like a course, like you went and you just sat in the class, you got a course. And so what they were telling us how to do this at the time, they were very clear that it was not something that was better than cosmetology, but it was like an add-on to your consultation. They wanted us to use this to help have a better dialogue with the customer behind the chair to help prep them for the service. So the trichology gave us like an intro, because when you get behind the chair, now be honest, cosmetologists and barbers and natural hairstylists, because I was guilty of it. You get the person behind the chair, right? They come in and they sit. And what's the first question we ask them? Now, sure, I know you're not behind the chair, but who can be in the chat? I'll wait a few minutes. If you are a licensed cosmetologist, barber, a natural hairstylist, or even you have both in the certificate. What's the first question we typically ask a person when they sit behind the chair? What is the first question? So as we wait a few moments, because I know there's a little bit of a delay, but I want you guys to drop in the chat. What is the first question that you ask your customer when they sit in your chair? Before you touch them, what's the first question? Not hello and how you doing, but you guys know. So I'm going to wait a few minutes and let's see what happens, okay? So while we're waiting a few minutes, I'm going to take a few moments out to thank you guys so much for being our partners to help change the narrative. And so while you guys are typing your answer in the chat, Cheryl and I were going to ask you to do this one more again.
Pampa me on, pampa me on.
All right. If you haven't had the opportunity to hit the thumbs up button, hey guys, go ahead on and hit that thumbs up button. So we have one person who took the bold move. This is my brother. This fool crazy. He gonna say this. How much money you got? All right. Okay. So I'm gonna be bold. So the question that I asked again is, what is the first question that you ask a customer when they sit in the chair? Now, Hair Savant, because you my boo, I can't wait to meet you. That's what I'm gonna say. That's my boo. Come on now. This was it. Bam. What brings you in today? That is what I would always say, right? So when I took this course, now again, this is limited to back then. I don't even, like I said, I don't know if Reckon still does it, okay? And other people who teach, other companies that teach in hair disorder like DECA, it's the same thing, okay? we would ask this, what brings you in today? What they were saying is that when you do that, when you ask that question, you put the power back into the customers. You're not being a true consultant. So they wanted to take this trichology, right? These hair disorders, and they didn't say diseases, by the way. So disorders and the hair loss issues, and you wanted to now begin to have a conversation by analyzing the hair and talking. So that's what's the difference. But today, I don't know what we had the scope. The scope was used, and what they told us to do with the scope, it was just a magnifying glass. They told us to be honest, and it just gave them like a different experience to see something up close and personal. But we were not to do any diagnosing. Do not play doctor over the people's head, is what we were told to not do. So the scope is banging. You look on social media, they're everywhere, but they're not new. Scopes have been around for quite some time. So take it from there, Cheryl. This trichology is not better than cosmetology, because it sure looks that way right now.
Well, first of all, I understand that I'm dealing with experienced cosmetologists when we go into cosmetic trichology, but I teach it a little different because I am trying to make sure that I keep the prestige of the cosmetologist, and I want to make sure that they know that I know that they are. But I have real clients because I think muscle memory is better than just giving you a bunch of stupid information and just so we do the presentation and we do, boards, but you have to have the client there. That's number one. But no, I never taught a student to tell them what brings you in today, but because I already know, because I spoke either to you on the phone or I have given you a questionnaire that is going to get quite personal. It's going to connect you to patterns. It's going to give me a very good groundwork of when you first saw it. Did your professional see it also? And then I will do a physical examination so I can determine color, smell, and things of that nature. But I will teach that to cosmetologists because at the end of the day, if you are going to send them to their next expert, such as a physician, medical dermatologists are medical doctors, even though medical doctors tease them. Or you're going to take them to the gynecologist or their OBGYN so they can get some nutrition and things of that nature, or a nutritionist or whatever the case may be, or an endocrinologist. But the complete different in expertise, you have to understand that if I don't teach you about patterns and for you to train your ear so you can match up information with symptoms, and then I train your eye of what a symptom looks like, and you get so good at it that you hear something, you automatically know what it is, you understand what you're going to diagnose, you understand what kind of cosmeceutical you're going to give them, and if they do need a corticosteroid, something that's out of your jurisdiction,
right,
then you will be able to call that particular medical doctor and you could be able to converse with them of what you think as the cosmetologist and trichologist. Then you will be able to have an even keel, peerish conversation,
right,
with the medical specialist,
okay,
or the clinician, even if it's a nutritionist. But all of the information and all of the pattern seeking, smell, sight, feel, touch. And when the microscope or microscopy comes in, that if I just teach you to just be wowed in your own microscope going, whoa, 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 and you're just looking at just things magnified, but you don't know that one color in one section, if you don't know what you're looking at with one neuropathy or one area or one imploding follicle, if you don't understand that, and if you don't even really realize that follicles are organs unto themselves, they're just like your kidney, they're an organ
right
itself. And so
right
if you don't really get a real grasp, and then too,
but
there's the psychological aspect of
right
trichology.
but does this have value? I mean, the
Well,
cost
I retired into it because I didn't have to plug up. I didn't really have to. I only plugged up if I wanted to.
Okay, here's some there's some hope for us. All right, there it is. So this
diagnosing was very profitable for me. I all I did was sit, and they sat across from me, and we talked about it. We talked about their family. We talked about what hair loss did to their relationship, and some of the psychological well-being, and if I felt that they needed more mental health assistance, I drove the train. I told them where to go. I didn't, and their practitioner and the dermatologist worked with me. And even if I knew that the hair would not grow back, it was my decision of what percentage of what was gonna not happen and what was going to be the prognosis. See, diagnosis and prognosis is in the hand of the cosmetologist, not the trichologist. Not because the trichologist will say, "Oh yeah, you got a wingworm, or you got folliculitis, or contact dermatitis." Okay, well then, guess what? They have to get the steroid and the antibiotic from the dermatologist, right?
Right.
But
true.
if I can fix it with my chemical treatments, maybe they need a more of a pH change. Maybe the fungus is having some issues. Then I would know that they need an alkaline shampoo versus a very acidic shampoo. Maybe there's something that I can do in my
your scope of practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what you're saying, I know maybe a lot of people, especially if you are a licensed professional, like there's a myth that dermatologists and doctors and nutritionists don't talk to us. That's a lie. They do talk to us. I know at our salon, we do consultations. We do give them the paper to take back. I even quoted one in my book, Dr. Faith Durden. They love to hear from us. I know we may not think that they do, but they do. They want to know. So I think I'm so glad that you did mention that. There are levels to all types of education, but I think it was really important that you share with everybody that trichology does not trump cosmetology. And I think Miss Sophia was in the chat, and Mr. Smith was in the chat, just saying that part of being an expert is just always having more education. But something about science, it just turns the natural hair people and because their cosmetology has now bought a lot of the pseudo stuff from the natural world. Now it's all convoluted, and so science is now the enemy. And who wants to pay for this extra education? Who wants to pay all this money? So I think, how do we unravel that part, Cheryl?
I think it's going to unravel itself. However, I think that cosmetology as a whole still has enough intelligence and I think authority. I think education. Now, but the book that we are, unfortunately, that the state has sanctioned as the only book and the only source of information right before we get to that rules and regs, because of course they teach you 10 steps of what you should do on the floor, nails and pedicure, all this, the same basic stuff in the 20th century. But then, once you get that piece of paper, it's a bad rude awakening, because that is not what the real world's about. But I think that we need to band together and really start asking for some higher scholar and some better, information so we can create our own paths to the expansion that I think the consumer body is waiting for us to do.
Woo! I like the sound of that. I know, Hair Savant, you and I are in the chat, and we are saying we like more education. What's up, Miss Esther? We see you in the chat. Esther says, you know what? I keep seeing the new stylist on Twitter constantly just referring people to dermatologists and saying that that's not their area of expertise. And it definitely seems like cosmetology training needs to be what? Overhauled. And that is exactly what we are talking about. Don't be afraid to say that. I agree. I'm with you, Hair Savant. Where do we enroll at the Cheryl Morrow Institute of Cosmetic Trichology and Hair Oracle Studies? I'm down with that shit right there. Come on, man. Cheryl, come on, open up the school so me and Hair Savant can be your first students. We've got to get this education going on. Here is what another a person on YouTube had to say, his perspective or opinion rather about science. Oh, I'm sorry. Here it is.
I don't know is the most important 3 words in science, and it should be the most important 3 words in society. Much of the current culture wars and everything else would disappear if people weren't so certain that they know the truth before you even ask the questions.
You see that? That's happened. People are just so ready to tell you what they know, and you do sometimes, and that's what Cheryl just said in the beginning of this conversation about hair experts, trichology, and cosmetologists. And so what she said is, part of being an expert is like what? You don't know everything. So can you just kind of reiterate that for some people, because people do think that being an expert means that you have all of the answers or at least half of them,
Well, you know when you're talking to an expert, they're very self-guided. They are very well versed, and even with thoughts that they may not agree with. But, and we as cosmetologists, there's a lot of natural hair that we don't agree with, but it's at least pocket information that you keep there just in case you can maneuver. And you also you just take it all in. And it's really, it's worth examining, even though it may not be the cornerstone of your whole thought of what you are personally believing and what has been true in your own personal salon or whatever it's been in your practice every day. But you're open enough to be able to say, I'm going to hold my belief in my value system, in my experience and but I'm going to question my own self, right? And I'm going to also read the data, read the statistics, not just stay in my own little world here, but right. I'm going to read studies. And then because you have all of this really self-organized information, you read your own data, you read, various different, you're able to shift and pivot and be able to talk to your peer, talk to your customer, right? And then talk to a dermatologist, then talk to a nutritionist, and then talk to, OBGYN, and talk to an endocrinologist, or talk to, a trichologist, or whatever the case may be. Because you took the wonderful passionate oath in terms of our license to be able to represent the consumer as best you can. But I do think that we also owe something to an incredible inheritance that Black people have struggled and really worked hard and been successful so long.
Right. And this is and that just speaks to why we are hosting the Afro Hair Summit. We sometimes we just can't wait for people, to do it. We have to do it ourselves. And I know a lot of organizations that started off with just 3 people, and then it just grew into something, that's still standing. I went to the barber board. They had a whole weekend of events, but I went to the end where they inducted Laura Clemente, the owner of La Barberia Institute here in Cleveland, Ohio. It's located in a suburb of Mayfield Heights. So she got inducted into the Barbers Hall of Fame. And so here's this organization that's over 100 years old or approaching 100 years old, and it's a barber's board. And they had not heard of Dr. Willie Morrow. So y'all know we changing that, right? So Cheryl and I is going to be, we know, really, I did. So we have already been invited by the new incoming president to do a presentation for them. And so to your point, again, Ms. Esther, that's why I'm so glad that you guys have become partners with us, because this is how we change the narrative. People don't know what they don't know. But as we wrap this up, I will say at the end of this book here, and next month we're going to have a dynamic book. I got a new book that's coming in. What they're saying here, to your point, Cheryl, is that what we can do now. Remember, this is not anything new, but because we don't have history as a part of our education in cosmetology, we're missing stuff. And so Cheryl and I, we're taking the bold move to offer the Afro Hair Summit in Toledo on Monday, October the 23rd at 9 o'clock. It starts at 9 o'clock at Powell's Barber and Beauty Supply. You can visit afrohairscience.com to get your ticket. Very, very affordable. I see a lot of comments in the chat about continuing education. Here is continuing education. You don't get credit for it from the state, but you can continue your education. But to your point, what these authors are saying about what we can do with the power that we have as individuals. And this is towards the end of the book, by the way. It says Marjorie Stewart Joyner and J.H. Jemison, which, by the way, if you work in the industry and you don't know who these 2 people are, you must learn. You have to know who these people are. So Marjorie Stewart Joyner and J.H. Jemison contributed to the death of Jim Crow as examples through their leadership. Here's what cosmetologists and a school owner did. They contributed to the death of Jim Crow, while social change compromised the fortunes of African-American beauty schools. They already said something about the social change, and we see it now. They saw it happening, and this is around the 60s, okay? But they still said it's hope. And so Cheryl is saying it's time. It's time for us to do that. But in conclusion, while few hairstylists today don't know the names of J.H. Jemison or Marjorie Stewart Joyner, we are all inheritors of the industrial and political changes for which they worked. We would not be here. There would be no Cheryl, no Ladosha, no hair savant, none of the wonderful people who are always in the chat with us if it was not for Marjorie Stewart Joyner or J.H. Jemison, and of course, Dr. Willie Morrow. So we have to raise the bar. Get your tickets. Cheryl, give us some closing thoughts. We are going to be back on Monday. We're going to be over on the dumbest shit that people say about black hair. We're talking about what? Sweat. Gonna make you sweat. What does sweat do to hair? Does it turn into salt? Does sweat make your hair dry? What's going on with sweat and hair? Should we stop working out? Should we wrap it up? Should we just let it go? Should we messy bun it? What to do with hair and sweat? That's how it's going down Monday at 6 o'clock. When we come back next week, now that we know the difference between a hair expert, a trichologist, and a cosmetologist, now we got to get over to title bullies. I learned that term from Cheryl last week. It's new for me. So now we got to watch out because now you are the licensed professional. You know your lane. You know what you got to do. You got to level it up. And so now we have to know what is a title bully and how do we, as licensed professionals, how do we watch out for those title bullies? I know something about that PhD just gets me going. Ooh, it just makes me get a bubble in my throat. So we're going to talk about these title bullies. But Cheryl, wrap us up with a good school for thought about just knowing, like, well, okay, now that you just said all this shit, how do we know? How does the consumer, how would a person really know if they're being got, by somebody who's pretending, or as Sophia pointed out, anybody can call themselves an expert. How would the public know? How would an everyday person know? Is Ladosha full of shit, or how would they know?
Well, I will say, I was in Harlem one time, and there used to be a little health food store with a little door called Solar Gardens, and that was about 10 years back. And the owner was named his name was Paco Bina. And I remember walking in, and I wanted something for the scalp, right? And I told him what I wanted and what I wanted mix it, how I wanted him to mix it, right? According to herbs, anyway, and what I wanted, because I wanted to do something with it. Anyway, so we started talking about some other things. And it was about, I would say, about four older elders sitting there talking. And they weren't really paying attention to me, but until we got into some other things in branches of the conversation. And they said to me, you sound, well, no, they said, I haven't heard anyone speak like you until since Malcolm. And I said, wow, that's a very good compliment. But ancestors want you to understand that they expect you to carry the same torch until the job is done. And they expect you to not try to be yourself, but understand that you are connected to them. And that your responsibility is to not do the whole lift yourself, but to just take a piece and go ahead and launch pad and jump off of their shoulders into whatever it is that you want, so someone else don't have to redo something that your generation is responsible for. And so I can say, just as experts, our obligation is just to each other, and to just make the industry so much more comprehensive, so much more effective. So when someone wants to, regardless if they want to be a business owner or they want to be a scholar, they want to be a teacher, or they want to be an educator, whatever they want to be, we need to just leave this industry in such a healthy, fiscal, profitable, abundant, prosperous opportunity. We just got to get going and trust each other, and understanding you have something, I have something, Savant got something, Esther's got something, Dosha, you got something. We can make it happen. And that is our only option. We have no options other than to fail because of. And I remember coming from high school. I think I was in junior high school, and I came and I literally saw Miss Joyner. In fact, she told my dad to shut up when she was talking.
Ooh.
Right. Because he wanted to talk, and he came down to the office in San Diego, and she came down. And in 2010, I met I think all the children of the Jemison family. I think they had we all met in 2010 at the Bronner Brother.
Wow.
But the key is that we got an incredible inheritance. We got incredible treasure. And we just got to really just make sure that we can build off each other. And I'm excited. Hope to see you guys at the Afro Hair Summit in Toledo.
Yeah, we really hope to see you guys at the Afro Hair Summit in Toledo on Monday, October the 23rd. Don't forget to visit afrohairscience.com. It's a very simple website. This is truly affordable education. We're going to do some free giveaways. You know, every time we do one of these events, we always like to give away something. So we're going to have something that we're going to give away. So when we come back on both shows next week, I think we gave away some combs. We're going to have some cool giveaways to get you guys just all juiced up about the Afro Hair Summit. But in conclusion, you know, now that we know how to, you know, the difference, is between a hair care expert, a trichologist, and a cosmetologist. What she's saying to all of us who are professionals, you know, how would our customers, how would the consumers know if we are the real deal Holyfield? We're sure just playing out. Number one, collaboration. Are you just Hans Holo Solo? Hopefully you are affiliated and connected with other people. You don't want to be out there just rogue all on your own in your little silos. Also, the public can tell by the legacy. Are we standing on the shoulders of giants, as Miss Esther just pointed out? Have you forgotten? Do you know who they are? Do you speak of them? Do you have pictures of them in your place of business? Is that part of your everyday language of somehow, some way? And then last but not least, you must always be in school. You want to always be taking some sort of a class, you know, where you're always learning. And this is how the public will know who the expert is or is not. And it's probably better if someone deems you an expert versus you calling yourself one, because she said anybody can call themselves an expert, but it doesn't quite work that way. And the public is well aware if we're just, tell them a whole bunch of crap. Okay.
Good question, Miss Esther, about the high school.
Yeah.
I actually think that's probably some of the best future beauty professionals and hair doctors and scalp doctors and natural hair. And I think they're in the high schools, and I will be open to creating that program with you. I don't know what city are you in, Esther?
She says what city you're in. She wants to know how do we get this information into these high schools and do the proper history for those vocational tech programs. We did, as a matter of fact, what made the Afro Hair Summit very successful was that we went, you know, to the cosmetology and barbering schools. And when we tell you the experts are in the schools, the future experts, let me tell you something. They are in the school, okay? Me and Cheryl, we try to tell you guys. Trust me, we're on our way out and they are on their way in. Do not think for 1 minute that today's future cosmetologists, barbers, and natural hairstylists are going to be anything like the ones of yesteryear. They really are trying to raise the bar. They did very good at the Afro Hair Summit. She's in KC. I'm sorry. Oh, she's in PA, okay? She's in the rural area, okay? And so, okay, so she says they got some kids out here who are into hair, even in the sticks. You're right. People want to know about hair everywhere. So I think that's it. If you have not had the opportunity to hit the heart button or the thumbs up, could you guys do Cheryl and I a favor? And don't forget to do that. Also, subscribe to the channel. We will be back here on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And again, we're going to be talking about the
Monday.
Hair. Okay, I'm sorry, Monday, right? Monday at 6 o'clock, talking about sweat and hair. And then we'll be back here on Planet Pluto Pseudo talking about title bullies. And Esther, by the way, your comment about schools in other countries or something like that, I think, sure, that would be a great topic to compare hairstylists in America to other hairstylists around the world. So Esther was oh, here it is right here. Here it is. Wait, Esther, don't get off yet. Hold on. She says, interesting how important stylists have been in the U.S. versus other countries. So I think that should be a good topic as we talk about the standards of education and barbering and cosmetology around the world. I don't know much. Cheryl, can you handle that topic?
We'll have to probably just bring some. Here we go again. Here's the expert answer. I will get back to you, but we will pull in some experts and some other people from other places.
Yeah. So we're going to give that show a try. Thank you so much, Esther, for dropping
Great
that.
idea.
Yeah, in the chat, we appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead on and sign off. We thank you guys for partnering with us on both of our platforms to help change the narrative about hair. It is time to raise the bar. Hair Survival, I still can't wait to meet you. And so we appreciate you guys so very much. You have a wonderful evening, and we will see you guys on Monday at 6 o'clock. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Welcome to Planet Pluto Pseudo.